I withdrew my college fund support for my daughter after learning she's been secretly bullying her stepsister and spreading malicious rumors about my new wife. Now she's turned the whole extended family against us. I never imagined I'd become the villain in my own daughter's story. But sitting here in my home office, staring at the family photos that line my desk, their frozen smiles now seeming like artifacts from another life, I realize that sometimes being the bad guy is the price of doing what's right. The photo that catches my eye most often shows Emma at her 16th birthday, just 6 months before everything fell apart. Her smile is radiant, genuine, so much like her mother's that it makes my heart ache. Sarah would know what to do in this situation. She always had a way of seeing through the chaos to find the right path forward. But Sarah's been gone for 12 years now, and I'm left trying to navigate these turbulent waters alone. Well, not entirely alone anymore. That's part of the problem. I met Rebecca at a charity fundraiser for the Children's Hospital where she works as a pediatric nurse. I hadn't planned on attending. These events usually felt like exercises in performative philanthropy, but my law firm was a major sponsor, and as a senior partner, my presence was expected. I remember fidgeting with my bow tie near the silent auction tables when she approached. "You look about as comfortable as my patients before a shot," she said, her brown eyes twinkling with amusement. "Want to make a break for it?" That was Rebecca, direct, funny, and somehow able to put everyone at ease. We ended up spending the entire evening talking in a quiet corner, missing most of the formal program. She told me about her work with young cancer patients, and I shared stories about raising Emma. When she mentioned her own daughter, Lily, there was such pride in her voice. I found myself wanting to know everything about both of them. Our first few dates were careful, measured. We both knew the stakes of bringing someone new into our children's lives. Emma was 17 then, Lily 15. Rebecca and I agreed to take things slowly, introducing the girls to each other in casual settings before they knew we were dating. They seemed to hit it off, Rebecca said after that first meeting, when we'd arranged for both girls to volunteer at a local animal shelter together. Emma was so patient showing Lily how to handle the scared dogs. I should have recognized the warning signs even then. The way Emma's smile didn't quite reach her eyes when Lily succeeded in getting a particularly anxious shepherd to take treats from her hand, the subtle way she shifted to take center stage whenever Lily started telling a story. But I was blinded by hope and what I now recognize as desperate loneliness. After 12 years of being both mother and father to Emma, I wanted to believe we could expand our family circle without friction. I wanted to believe my sweet, caring daughter would welcome a sister figure in her life. Our wedding was small but elegant, held in Rebecca's backyard garden that she'd spent years cultivating. Emma served as my best woman, wearing a beautifully tailored navy suit that matched mine. During her speech at the reception, she brought tears to everyone's eyes. "Dad," she said, her voice catching slightly, "Mom would be so happy to see you smiling again. And Rebecca," she turned to her new stepmother, "thank you for bringing that smile back. I know we can never replace what Dad and I lost, but maybe we can build something new together." Rebecca squeezed my hand under the table, and I saw tears in her eyes. Later that night, she confessed, "I was so worried about that speech. You hear such horror stories about children objecting to their parents remarrying. Emma's always been mature for her age," I said proudly. "Sarah and I raised her to be kind and understanding." How wrong I was. How completely and utterly wrong. The changes were gradual at first, so subtle that looking back, I'm ashamed I didn't notice sooner. Little things started disappearing from Lily's room: a favorite sweater, her grandmother's bracelet, a cherished photo album. When asked, Emma would express concern, helping to search the house and offering suggestions about where the items might have turned up. Lily began having trouble at school. Her grades, once consistently strong, started slipping. She'd come home with her shoulders hunched, making herself as small as possible. When Rebecca tried to talk to her about it, she'd insist everything was fine, but her eyes would dart nervously toward Emma's closed door. "I'm worried about Lily," Rebecca confided in me one night, about 6 months after the wedding. "She's not sleeping well, barely eating. When I ask her friends, they say she's becoming increasingly isolated at school." I suggested family therapy, thinking it might help with the transition. Emma refused immediately. "We don't need some stranger poking around in our business," she declared. "Maybe Lily's just going through a phase. Not everyone can be perfect all the time." The way she said perfect, there was something in her tone that made me uncomfortable, but I pushed the feeling aside. Emma had always been strong-willed, and I'd grown used to choosing my battles carefully. The anonymous Instagram account appeared shortly after Emma's 18th birthday. It started innocuously enough, posts about general high school drama, nothing that would immediately raise red flags. But gradually, the content began to focus more and more on Lily. At first, it was subtle mockery of her clothes and appearance. Then came the candid photos, Lily sleeping with her mouth open, Lily tripping on the stairs, Lily crying in what was clearly meant to be a private moment. Each post was accompanied by cruel commentary, and the comment section was even worse. The account gained followers quickly, becoming a sensation within their high school's social circle. Lily stopped wanting to go to school altogether. She developed anxiety attacks, something she'd never experienced before. "Please," she begged Rebecca one morning, shaking and crying, "please don't make me go. I can't take it anymore." Rebecca took her to a doctor, who recommended immediate therapy and suggested we file a police report about the cyberbullying. The school administration seemed sympathetic but claimed they couldn't do much about an anonymous account. Throughout all of this, Emma played the role of concerned stepsister perfectly. She'd comfort Lily in front of us, promise to keep an eye out for anyone suspicious at school, and express outrage at the cruelty of anonymous trolls. "Don't worry, Lily," she'd say, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "I'm sure whoever's doing this will get bored eventually." The truth came to light on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I'd come home early from work with a migraine and was heading to my room when I heard voices from Emma's bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear her laughing with her friends. "Did you see her face today when she found her history paper shredded?" Emma's voice was gleeful. "God, she's such a crybaby. No wonder her dad left." "Emma," one of her friends sounded uncertain, "don't you think this is going too far? I mean, she's your stepsister now." "She is not my sister," Emma snapped. "She and her gold-digging mom are trying to replace my mother." "Well, guess what? They can try all they want, but I'm going to make sure they know exactly where they stand in this family." I stood there, frozen, as my daughter continued to detail her campaign of cruelty. The Instagram account was just the tip of the iceberg. She'd been systematically destroying Lily's belongings, spreading rumors at school, and orchestrating social isolation tactics that would have impressed a military strategist. But it was her next words that finally broke me from my paralysis. "Besides," she said, "it's not like Dad can do anything about it. The college fund is in my name, Mom made sure of that before she died. He has to give it to me, no matter what. So even if they figure it out, what's he going to do? Choose them over his own daughter?" I didn't sleep that night. I spent hours reviewing old texts and emails, speaking with Rebecca, and finally, around dawn, making the hardest phone call of my life, to my lawyer. When I confronted Emma the next day, I had Rebecca record the conversation. Not for legal purposes, but because I knew, without evidence, no one would believe what was about to happen. "Emma," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "we need to talk about the Instagram account." She played innocent at first, her performance flawless. But when I started quoting her own words back to her, when I showed her screenshots of her logged-in activity that I'd discovered on her laptop, the mask slipped. The transformation was terrifying. My beautiful, seemingly kind daughter became someone I didn't recognize. Her eyes turned cold, her voice sharp as broken glass. "So what if I did it?" She spat. "They deserve it. They think they can just walk in here and take over our life? Take Mom's place? I'm your daughter, your real daughter. Not that sniveling little fraud." "Emma," my voice cracked, "your mother would be ashamed of you right now." It was the wrong thing to say. She lunged forward, knocking over a lamp. "Don't you dare tell me what Mom would think. You're the one who betrayed her. You're the one who replaced her." "I didn't replace her, Emma. I fell in love again. That doesn't diminish what your mother and I had, or my love for you. But this behavior. This cruelty. What are you going to do about it?" She challenged, smirking. "The college fund is mine. Mom made sure of that." "Actually," I said quietly, "she didn't. The account is in trust, with conditions. One of which is that I, as trustee, must deem you ready for the responsibility of a college education. Right now, Emma, you're not showing me that you are." The color drained from her face. "You wouldn't dare." "I would, and I am. The money will be held until you show genuine remorse, attend therapy, and make amends for what you've done. If you refuse, it will be transferred to a trust for Lily's education and mental health care." What followed was chaos. Emma stormed out that night, going straight to my sister Marion's house. Within hours, my phone was exploding with messages from family members. Emma had crafted a masterful narrative of betrayal, how her grieving father had fallen prey to a manipulative woman and her daughter, how they'd poisoned him against his own child, how they were trying to steal her inheritance. The family divided quickly. Marion led Team Emma, convinced that grief had warped my judgment. My parents, initially supportive of my remarriage, began to question everything. Holiday dinners became battlegrounds, with each side launching verbal grenades across mashed potatoes and turkey. Rebecca stood by me through it all, even when the whispers about her being a gold digger grew so loud they couldn't be ignored. Lily, finally free from Emma's torment, began to heal slowly. She started seeing a therapist, made new friends, and gradually reclaimed her confidence. 6 months into our family civil war, salvation came from an unexpected source. Sophie, Emma's best friend since elementary school, showed up at our door one rainy Sunday afternoon. She was shaking, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "I can't do this anymore," she sobbed. "Emma's my best friend, but what she's doing. What she made us all do. It's wrong." Sophie had kept everything: texts, videos, voice messages. Emma hadn't just been cruel, she'd been methodical. She'd kept trophies of her campaign against Lily, documented every tear and moment of distress like a collector cataloging butterflies. The evidence was damning. Emma had bragged about manipulating family members, joked about Lily's panic attacks, and even planned future torments with gleeful detail. She'd recorded Lily's breakdown during a particularly brutal day at school, sharing it with select friends as entertainment. Armed with Sophie's evidence, I called another family meeting. This time, I didn't argue or defend. I simply played the recordings, showed the messages, and let Emma's own words speak for themselves. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother, Emma's strongest defender after Marion, had to leave the room. My father aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Marion sat stone-faced, her worldview crumbling around her. "She needs help," Rebecca said quietly, breaking the silence. "Real help. Not excuses, not enabling, but genuine psychological help." Today marks exactly 1 year since that family meeting. The college fund remains in trust, untouched. Emma still lives with Marion, though I hear she's finally agreed to see a therapist. Whether this is genuine desire for change or another manipulation tactic, only time will tell. Lily graduated high school last week, valedictorian of her class. Her speech about overcoming adversity brought the audience to their feet. She's heading to Stanford in the fall, having earned a prestigious scholarship. The money from Emma's college fund won't be needed for her education after all, but it continues to pay for her therapy. Rebecca and I are stronger for having weathered this storm together. Our business bank account still gets the occasional angry message from distant relatives who believe Emma's version of events, but most of the family has come around to the truth. Last night, I received a letter from Emma. Real paper, her handwriting shaky but familiar. She wrote about attending therapy, about finally confronting her unresolved grief over losing her mother. She wrote about anger and fear and the terrible things they made her do. It's a start. Not an ending, not even close to a resolution, but a start. The photos on my desk tell stories of different times: Emma and Sarah at the beach, Emma's 16th birthday, our wedding day, Lily's graduation. Each image captures a moment when we thought we knew exactly who we were and where we were heading. But life isn't about frozen moments. It's about the hard choices we make in between them. It's about standing firm when everything in you wants to give in. It's about loving someone enough to let them face the consequences of their actions, even when those consequences break your heart. The college fund remains in trust, waiting. Not just for Emma to check boxes of attendance at therapy sessions or make rehearsed apologies, but for real change. For the daughter I raised to find her way back to herself, past the grief and anger and cruelty that consumed her. Some nights, I still wake up wondering if I made the right choice. Then I hear Lily laughing downstairs, a sound that was once rare as desert rain, and I know. Sometimes love means making the hardest choices imaginable. Sometimes being a parent means standing firm when every instinct screams at you to give in. And sometimes, just sometimes, those impossible choices lead exactly where they need to. Emma's therapist called yesterday. She wants to arrange a supervised meeting, the first since that confrontation a year ago. I'm nervous, hopeful, terrified. Rebecca squeezed my hand when I told her, offering silent support as she always does. Lily, surprisingly, was the most positive about the news. "Everyone deserves a chance to change," she said, wisdom beyond her years in her voice. "Even the people who hurt us." The college fund sits in its account, gathering interest and possibility. Whether it ultimately helps Emma build a future or continues to support healing for those she hurt remains to be seen. But for the first time in a long time, I have hope that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way forward together. Not as the family we were, or even the family we thought we'd be, but as the family we're becoming, scars, growth, and all. Final update, 2 years later. It's amazing how much can change in 2 years. As I sit in the hospital waiting room, Watching Emma hold her new baby sister, I can hardly believe we've come this far. The supervised meeting that her therapist arranged turned out to be a turning point, though not in the way any of us expected. Emma came prepared with a script of apologies, but somewhere between the formal words, something real broke through. Maybe it was seeing Lily in person for the first time in over a year, or maybe it was the weight of carrying so much hatred for so long, but she broke down completely. "I don't even know who I am anymore," she sobbed, the carefully prepared notes crumpling in her hands. "Every time I look in the mirror, I see someone Mom would hate." It wasn't an instant fix. There were more supervised meetings, more therapy sessions, both individual and family. We discovered that Emma had been secretly visiting Sarah's grave every week, having conversations with her mother that grew increasingly dark and twisted. Her grief had morphed into a poison that she'd used to justify her cruelty. The breakthrough came during a joint therapy session 6 months ago. Lily, who had been thriving at Stanford, came home specifically to attend. She brought something with her, the journal she'd kept during the worst of Emma's bullying. "I want you to read it," she told Emma, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "All of it. I want you to know exactly what it felt like to be me." Emma read it. Every page. Every tear-stained entry. Every desperate prayer for the torment to end. She read about panic attacks in school bathrooms, about contemplating suicide, about feeling worthless and unwanted in her own home. She read until she couldn't see through her tears, until she was physically sick, until she finally understood the full weight of what she'd done. That day changed everything. Emma moved back home 2 months later. Not to her old room, she wasn't ready for that, but to the converted garage apartment. She enrolled in community college, using her own savings from her part-time job. The college fund remained untouched by mutual agreement. She wanted to prove she could make it on her own first. The family dynamics shifted again. Marion, my sister, initially opposed Emma's decision to move home, still clinging to her role as protector. But even she couldn't deny the positive changes in Emma. The cold hardness in her eyes had been replaced by something softer, more reminiscent of the daughter I'd known before grief twisted her. Rebecca's pregnancy announcement 3 months ago could have reignited old wounds. Instead, Emma surprised us all by being the first to offer congratulations. She asked thoughtful questions about the baby, helped paint the nursery, and even organized a small baby shower with both sides of the family. Which brings us to today. Little Sarah Rebecca Watson came into the world at 3:47 a.m., healthy and loud. When the nurse asked who wanted to hold her first, Emma stepped back, gently pushing Lily forward. "Big sister's privilege," she said softly. Watching them now, Emma, Lily, and baby Sarah, I see 3 sisters finding their way towards something new. Lily is showing Emma how to support the baby's head, their heads bent together over their tiny sister. The past isn't erased, but it's no longer the only story being told. Last week, Emma asked about the college fund. Not to claim it, but to discuss an idea she'd had. She wants to split it, half for her education when she's ready to transfer to a 4-year university, and half to establish a scholarship fund for victims of bullying. She's been working with her therapist to develop an anti-bullying program for local schools, sharing her story not as a confession but as a cautionary tale. "I can't undo what I did," she told me, "but maybe I can help prevent someone else from becoming what I became." The family wounds are healing too. Marion and Rebecca have developed a tentative friendship, bonding over their shared love of gardening. My parents have become enthusiastic grandparents to all 3 girls, no longer drawing lines between biological and step relationships. Even the extended family has largely moved past taking sides, though holiday gatherings still have their awkward moments. Lily graduates from Stanford next month. Emma will be there, cheering from the stands. They're not best friends, some bridges can't be rebuilt exactly as they were, but they've found a different kind of relationship, one built on hard-won understanding and respect. As for the college fund? It's still there, growing slowly, waiting for its new purpose. Like our family, it's being transformed into something different than what was originally planned, but perhaps something even more meaningful. Baby Sarah is being passed around now, each family member getting their turn to welcome her. When she starts to fuss, it's Emma who notices first, quickly retrieving her from an overwhelmed aunt and gently swaying until the baby settles. "You're safe," I hear her whisper to her tiny sister. "You're loved. And I promise, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know that." Looking at my 3 daughters, I'm reminded that family isn't just about blood or birth or legal documents. It's about choices, the hard ones, the healing ones, the ones that break us and rebuild us. It's about finding the courage to face our worst selves and the strength to become better. The price of cruelty was high, but the rewards of redemption? They're proving to be priceless. Sarah, my first wife, watching from wherever she is, would be proud of the family we've become. Not because we're perfect, but because we're perfectly imperfect, learning and growing and loving despite our scars. Or maybe because of them. Tonight, when the visitors have gone and the hospital quiets, our blended, broken, beautiful family will gather around its newest member. We'll share stories, laugh about the day's events, and make plans for the future. Emma and Lily will probably bicker over who gets to hold the baby next, but it will be the ordinary kind of sister squabble, free from the poison of the past. And I'll look at them all, my firstborn who lost her way and found it again, my stepdaughter who taught us all about resilience, my wife who never lost faith in the power of love to heal, and our new little one who represents all our hopes for the future, and know that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most beautiful outcomes.